Welcome to PixMix. My name is Aaron.
My name is Patricia.
Hey, Patricia, and we have just gone through 25 days of Christmas, thanks to all the Pixar shorts, and so we are now going to rank the top 5 best and top 5 worst of those Pixar shorts for the first 26. And by the way, before everybody jumps in and says, well, what about this short and what about that short, we're only doing the first 26 shorts that appeared in the Pixar DVD collections, and also the one that we saw in the Incredibles DVD. So we're going to rank those first, and then in the future, when we do more Pixar shorts, we'll also rank those separately as well. So
Yes, indeed. And don't worry, we will be tackling those in the future. So don't worry, this is not a definitive top 10 list with the 5 best and the 5 worst. This is just the ones that we have for the first 26 so far.
And also, just to before we actually begin, we believe that our next Pixar film is actually going to be Luca.
Yes, it is. And that's going to be really interesting because, as you guys know, if you listen to the Soul PixMix episode, one of the co-writers and co-directors of that movie also worked on Soul. So I take it that we're going to be in good hands with maybe having a person who is not associated with Pixar, as in like a veteran or any of the sort, is going to be tackling in this. And let's see how he does compared to the previous ones that we had, such as the people who worked on The Good Dinosaur and onward. So we'll just see what happens next.
Yeah, I'm guessing that this is going to be tackling like childhood growing up. I'm guessing like kind of like that type of realm of like a boy becoming a man. I think is that the theme of it. I believe.
Yeah, and it takes place in Italy too. So I take it that there, from what we've seen in the picture, the only picture that we've seen of Luca, it's definitely going to look really different from a Pixar film, which I'm excited about because, Pixar has its distinct 3D style. They never fully deviate away from this style because I mean a lot of people have theorized that it all takes place in the same universe, but this looks incredibly different, unless of course this is just a concept art and it does look like the distinct Pixar appearance. So we don't know for sure, but yeah, it sounds very promising.
Yeah. Well, in the words of Shaggy in that Scooby-Doo movie, why decipher from a classic look? So
Right,
yes,
exactly.
I think that probably might be back to it. But I think one thing that in regards to like Pixar, I mean, we kind of know them more for their narratives really now more than the kind of like we know what the Pixar look is like. I think it's more kind of like how they tell the story. I think is what we're kind of looking for now. Don't you think? Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, like the Pixar look has always been like really beautiful. I mean, there are some who go into more details, others go for like the grand scale of its presentation, but they all look distinctly the same. It's all about the storytelling and how it either tugs into your heartstrings or how humorous it is. So yeah, I think that with the shorts is a completely different story because they've all had distinct different styles, but they've all have to work around the limitations that they only have a few minutes to tell their stories.
Okay, but everybody, I think we've delayed for long enough, so I think let's get into it. So we are going to start off firstly with the top 5 worst, and let's just say I think I'm suspecting that through these, I would say that these shorts aren't necessarily the vehicle for driving Pixar into the future. And wink, wink. So.
Ah,
Okay, so but some of them actually are quite surprising. So let's just go through them. So number 5 in the top 5 worst Pixar animated shorts, the first 26. This one has an average score of 5.93 out of 10. It is Up Doug's Special Mission.
oh, really? Okay, well, okay, so let's compare to the other shorts that were combined with the others. I mean, we had Mike's New Car, we had Bernie, we had Jack Attack, and we had Your Friend the Rat. So I guess maybe some people just didn't seem to care for it as much, which I mean, I guess it's not. I don't know. It's kind of a surprise to me, but I can see where they're coming from. It's like it adds more into the story, but maybe they felt it was unnecessary. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was just, if anything, it was just a bunch of gags. Just like, oh hey, let's stick Doug in this hole. Let's have Doug fall through the floor. Let's have Doug just stand around looking at a rock. They weren't. I mean, I guess you could say they're more stuff you probably find in like your average cartoon. Maybe they didn't stand out because of that. I'm only guessing, but I
Yeah.
mean, I look back on Duck Special Mission, and I just like it. It sets up for obviously them meeting up with Carl Fredricksen and obviously the kid. But I mean, in regards to anything else, really, it doesn't. I mean, it kind of just sets up for the cone of shame, and just sets up for like everything. But on top of that as well, there's a continuity error because with Alpha, they don't point out that his voice box is broken, like in that short, and this is like precedes them making fun of it, you know. So
Right. And it's understandable why some people feel that this short is not as high as the other compilation shorts that were featured in the films. Like you have Jack Attack, you have Your Friend the Rat, you have Mike's New Car and Bernie, and well, the other shorts that we'll probably be talking about later, I'm not sure, but I can see why those are looked upon much more fondly because they're just like little extras. I mean, sure, you have Bernie, which is focusing a little bit more on gags, but something like Jack Attack actually continues off with the story, so it fits really nicely. So I guess maybe that Doug's special mission was just overshadowed by Jack Attack, which already had that kind of similar concept. So yeah, I can understand why some people just find it as kind of mediocre.
Okay, moving on. Number 4 in our top 5 worst Pixar shorts is unfortunately another Up short. It had an average score of 4.67 out of 10. It is George and AJ.
Okay, so we discussed about this once again. Go check out the George and AJ episode. But it's essentially the storyboards and animatics with completely different voice acting. So it was jarring with presentation wise. And I guess story wise, it is pretty funny. I mean, we got to see the elderly people being able to take off and being able to, find ways to make their homes fly or get their homes away from the elderly retirement homes. But yeah, it's nothing really that special. I mean, we don't know if this was a deleted scene or maybe just something additional that they wanted to add into the movie but couldn't because of budgetary reasons. But yeah, I mean, not really very necessary.
Yeah, to me, it just sounds like, yeah, I totally agree with you. It just sounds like they took the animatics and they just cleaned it up a little bit and put some voices in, and then just did that. It kind of reminds me, like, when early games come out for E3 and they're not like specifically given voice actors to the characters that you're going to be in with. So basically, Nintendo get like their Treehouse team to like do all the voice acting, and it's supposed to be just there just to kind of like show off for like all the all the exhibitors and things like that. It kind of feels like that's what Up did, like it just kind of said, okay, let's just throw these voices in there, and that just basically will be the idea that we have, and we'll just give it to investors and see what they think, and not tell them that it's the final product. Yeah, for some strange reason, Pixar decided to throw this in their collections DVD. Without any explanation. So I don't know if it's any different from like on the Up DVD. I mean, or the Up Blu-ray. I understand it's on there too, but I mean, for me, it just feels like all the ideas that they probably had for the sequels, and they decided just to throw them into this short. And that's why there's also a continuity error in this as well, because I don't know if it's either George or AJ, but his badge actually says his name on it, but in the actual movie, he's actually using somebody else's badge. So like
It's very,
yeah,
but we're very off. And this is a thing that a lot of storyboards they have to be really careful with. It's that for storyboards, you basically take the script and you have to draw the scenes moment by moment. And if the animators take a look into it, they have to make sure to catch those little mistakes. Otherwise, the final product is going to have a lot of continuity errors. So yeah, that definitely was a goof off for whoever drew that part. That the badge just so happens to be placed on the wrong.
Well,
name.
again, if it's based on the animatics, it would have basically been based on the ideas before that joke came in. Into the final product. So that's all we can guess. So yeah, not all that notable really. So yeah, I totally agree. It's probably the fourth worst out of the 26. So yeah.
Wait, can we really even count it as a short? Because even though that it is featured in the Pixar collection, and even though it was featured in the Up DVD and Blu-ray, but I don't really see it as like a major short compared to all the classic shorts that we would know of.
Pixar confirm it's an official short, so I mean it's them. They got them only themselves to blame, really. So
yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. Okay, so we talk about the vehicle. We talk about the vehicle that isn't to drive Pixar to the future. We're definitely going to get into those vehicles now. Number three worst Pixar short. It's got an average score of 3.83 out of 10. It's Mater and the Ghost Light.
Oh, yes, of course it is. So it's essentially Mater doing a bunch of spooks to scare everybody at Radiator Springs, and then the sheriff comes along and talks about this ghost light, and then Mater doesn't think it's true, and so there's a ghost light that's chasing after him, and then it turns out to be a prank, and it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not even as engaging as like all the other like. It's like, I mean, is Sketch Reckless like a short for DreamWorks? Is it?
Yes, it
Because
is.
yeah, that's a. I think that's a more an appropriately Halloween themed short that I would say probably is better than Mater and the Ghostlight. Like it basically goes back to obviously the hauntings of Lord Farquaad's old castle, and but in regards to this, I mean, it's like it's just a harmless prank. That's just kind of like played on everybody, and I mean, obviously they throw in like the whole like thing at the end, but even then, that's not enough to kind of like save it. Like it's.
Why wasn't this a Halloween episode?
I think it was, wasn't it?
There was never any mention of Halloween as far as I knew, and there was no decorations or anything like that. They just said, "Oh, this is a tall tale about the ghost light." So I don't know.
Well, it was their intention of like a haunted story. I would have thought, but
I guess that's true.
ghost light. But again, like it's Larry the Cable Guy being Larry the Cable Guy. Like it's there's no real like spin to it really, and what's his name? Who's the guy who plays Lightning McQueen? His name's just gone flying out of my head.
Oh,
Owen
Owen
Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah. So yeah, he just happens just to be there really. No, doesn't really do anything of note. So yeah. Okay, so the second worst Pixar short has an average score of 2.93 out of 10. It's Air Mater.
My God, this one was really dumb. So, hey guys, did you like the Cars franchise? No? Well, let's combine it with the Planes franchise. Wouldn't that be better?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't this? I mean, what came first? Did Planes come out before or after this short? I really can't remember.
I can't remember either, but I do know that Planes came out around 2009 because that was when they stopped doing the direct-to-video Disney movies, and then I think after that they did the Tinkerbell movies. So, or maybe it was the other way around. I don't remember, but it was definitely around that time in which when Disney was trying to cash in on the Cars series because it made so much money on the toys and the merchandise, and they were like, "Hey, let's do Planes." So. Yeah, I guess they decided to put them together for a crossover, sort of.
Yeah, well, it's. I'm really glad it never took off. Wah wah. But but I didn't actually mean that. Actually, it just came into my head. But imagine this like it did actually take off. This is like boats and ships and like spaceships or whatever. Like and. Yeah, it's just like, and then they made like Buzz Lightyear jokes. I'd be like, yeah, it would have gone too far, in my opinion. So I'm really glad it stopped with planes. I'm really glad it actually stopped with cars. In that regard, but this short is just it's Larry the Gable Guy basically just telling a tall tale. That's all it is. Like it's nothing nothing of note.
Yeah,
really.
But here's the thing that we saw the ending in which we had the planes come by and say, "Hey, Mater, come join us," and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go, Lightning," and then he flies away. So we don't even know if it actually happened. It's questionably odd.
Yeah, just it doesn't go with the continuity of like the Cars, as far as I'm aware. Like they didn't even mention it like in Cars 3 as far as I'm aware. Definitely not in Cars 2.
No, definitely not. No.
Yeah,
I mean, Mater was too busy being a spy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and finally, the worst Pixar short that has been voted by yourselves. It has an average score of 2.83 out of 10. It's Time Mater. What else?
Yeah, what else was there? To be quite honest, it's really confusing, and the whole thing about them traveling through time wasn't even an original idea to begin with, and their paradox doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, just it basically just like it does a worse job than Cinderella 3 and like obviously wrecking the timeline I think of Cars. just for the sake of of a joke. But I mean, on top of that as well, like I'm just really annoyed that they had a chance to like do like Back to the Future references. Like you've got a time traveling car, like no Great Scott, no like things from Michael J. Fox. I mean, how fun would it have been if they actually did like start making fun of that? Within that, because like you got the two that can come together, and so, but I think they just had it in mind that Mater can time travel now. Like he can fly, he can time travel, he can do whatever you want, kids. Buy the toys. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And for what? I mean, all because they want to get this guy who was the founder of Radiator Springs to find Radiator Springs, and then there's this whole paradox of them also finding it with additional things. It's like I'm surprised that the time paradox didn't explode.
Good. Chris, can I ask you a question? Larry the Cable Guy, where does he live right now?
I have no idea.
Okay, then. 'Cause why do I get the feeling the next time I come to the United States, I'm gonna end up awkwardly kind of bumping into him somehow? Like, by the way, that's not a tease for like any future Pixar thing. Like, we've not been in contact with Larry the Cable Guy, but I just know that the amount of times I've trashed him on PixMinis, I just know somewhere down the line I'm going to end up meeting him for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's something in the UK we call Sod's Law, but that's just how I just feel about the way we just talk about Larry the Cable Guy on the show. Like somewhere down the line there's going to be like a punchline to all of this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he moved to LA so that he can be able to focus on his career.
You mean
I'm not sure, but I do.
You mean his multiple Mater appearances on Cars? Like that's what
Sure.
I think what Mater is to Larry the Cable Guy is what Donkey is to Eddie Murphy. I think at this point, like, does he do any like other roles? As far as I'm aware.
Who? Eddie Murphy?
Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh, I mean, I know that Larry the Cable Guy has, he does his stand up. I mean, that's what he was known for, as we talked about before, that he was known for blue collar TV alongside with the three other guys that we talked about before. And I know that he does radio as well. And
all right then. Well, if he does other stuff than this, then maybe he's probably doing better than Eddie Murphy. I don't know. But
I don't know, to be quite honest, but yeah, I think that the last thing that he did, I'm looking at his filmography right now, but the last thing that he did was doing a lot of voiceover works for Mater, a lot of the video games, and
oh, good grief! Like it.
Yeah, it says right here that he was supposed to do a TV show called Cruisin' with the Huskers, but it said it was supposed to come out in 2020, but I haven't heard about this show.
Well, you know why it's being held up, so let's just move on from that, and because we don't need to discuss that and make people more miserable than they are now. So
okay, fair enough.
Okay,
and if you're and I just looked it up, he's living in Nebraska, so you don't need to see him anytime soon.
That's fine. Okay, then, because we're not going to Nebraska anytime soon, as far as I'm aware.
Nope. So, no, we're not.
Okay. So, in regards to a participation award that we always seem to give out, it seems that the middle one, from what I can see, seems to be, I mean, I'm just making sure I tallied this up right. So, this one in the middle, which is getting an average score of 7.33 out of 10, is One Man Band.
Oh, that's a shame, because that was actually a really great short, and it's just too bad that it was stuck in Cars.
Yeah, it's which is a shame, really, because I mean, obviously, I thought it was okay. I think because obviously the message at the end of like just keep things simple, and that was quite hilarious. But I guess some people, I mean, it did look kind of a bit drab, really, when you kind of looked at it. Like the content, I think, was all put into like the sounds and everything like that. So like treble bass and things like that. And I mean, like when you really looked at like how it all looked, it did kind of look a bit kind of grayish. A little bit.
I mean, it did make a lot of sense, because it was taking place, around medieval times, and it was a girl who was going over to a fountain to drop off a coin, and she happened to find two homeless people. So I guess there was a reason why it looked kind of drab, but I still love this short. It's a great short that focuses on the music, and I think that sure, it doesn't have like a major story compared to the other Pixar shorts, but I think its presentation was pretty well done. But I can see why some people just find it to be okay.
Okay. Right, everybody, it is the moment you've all been waiting for. So we are going to go into what we believe are the best Pixar shorts. So, Patricia, are you ready for this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go. This has got an average score of 8.0 out of 10. So this was pretty definitive by all of you, me, and Patricia. So the fifth best Pixar short is Tin Toy.
Yeah, definitely one of the best of the classic pre-Toy Story shorts. It was actually the precursor to Toy Story. This short would be the one that would kickstart Pixar's reputation because it was the one that won the Oscar. It was the one that they tried to make a movie off of, but then went over to the Toy Story franchise. And it was the one that had like incredibly groundbreaking animation, which, I mean, not to say anything wrong about the adventures of Andre and Wally B and Luxo Jr. and Redstream, but Tin Toy was definitely the one that really made Pixar into the household name we know today.
So I mean, yeah, Tin Toy looked great. I mean, like it was, they basically started doing like you could actually see that Tin Toy was actually made of tin, like he shined and everything like that. And okay, the baby was like really ugly looking, but I think that was basically to make it more menacing. I think, but I mean, obviously when we got to Jerry's game, obviously they started getting humans a lot more nailed down. But I mean, in regards to like them telling the story of it, and then just the Tin Toy himself, obviously interacting, and obviously the way it sounded as well, and basically the way it all ended, I think it was pretty good. So yeah, cool. All right then. So moving on to the fourth best Pixar short. This one got an average score of 8.43 out of 10. It's Day and Night.
Yeah, I absolutely love this short. It's one of my favorites. It might even be my personal favorite because I really like the way that the animation was presented. I mean, it was the first time in which they utilized 2D and 3D animation. You got to see the different sides of day and night, their pros and cons, and then it ends wonderfully with that speech discussing about how people tend to stick to the norms and what they were comfortable with, and how we need to be able to explore the unknown because it's mysterious and beautiful. And the way that they ended off with the thing that they had in common was the sunset was just absolutely beautiful.
So, I mean, I really liked it. I mean, the fact that it all takes place in Nevada, which I think is probably the best place to put it, because you got to look at like, there's buildings involved, and then there's fireworks, and then there's like, where there's like the radio, and then there's like people like sunbathing and things like that, and playing in the pool. It was. I think all of that needs to take place in a hot atmosphere, and I think they did that pretty well. And the characters as well actually kind of remind me of like the Pink Panther animation that they did back in the day. Like it sort of kind of like goes into that kind of world, if you will. So and also the way that they did it was pretty good as well, because they animated like the front bit, and then like behind it they put like all the 3D effects in it. So like what they were looking at there was basically like they were shining it through, and I thought that was really clever way of doing it. So.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think the fact that this was pretty much the way of combining those two animations together in a way that didn't seem too jarring and awkward, because it's like combining 2D and 3D animation is not as easy as you think, because they're two, even though that they're animation styles, they're two completely different animation styles. It's something like Titan AE, in which it tries to combine CGI with 2D animation, which looked incredibly awkward and off-putting. But something like Day and Night, in which they were able to do it smartly, with the main foreground being the 2D and then the background being the 3D, and it's very small, it's actually able to look even better and is well integrated. So give kudos to the way that they were able to integrate these two clashing animation styles.
Okay, moving on. So number 3 in our list, which has an average score of 8.57 out of 10, and I'm quite surprised it's actually not like within competing for the top 2. It's La Luna.
Huh, I don't know why either. I guess maybe akin to what we were discussing about earlier with One Man Band. Maybe they thought that the story wasn't strong enough to be in the top 2. But
I love this story though, because like it's about a son, obviously compete, caught between his father and his grandfather, obviously saying how they should basically clean up the moon, and to shape it into the way that it should be, and then he becomes inventive on his own and kind of like invents his own unique style of dealing with it, So I think that's a warming story, and also they gave him props for it too. I think it's a really nice story. I think of coming into the family business of like scooping up stars and on the moon, kind of like so. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe people thought like there wasn't enough Mario Galaxy in it. I don't know, but
Kirby.
Kirby or whatever. Like, well, I think he was collecting stars in Mario Galaxy. I think.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the star bits. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and but in regards to La Luna, yeah, I love this short. I think it's beautifully done, and it's very relaxing, and also I just think that it makes it all look really magical when they get onto the moon, and make it looks
Yeah.
very imaginative. So yeah, but I mean, I'll accept that it's in third place, but I just think it should have been higher. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I can understand why some people may have not seen it because it was paired up with Brave, and we already discussed about Brave and PixMix a few years ago, so go listen to that. And speaking of which, I mean, we completely changed our minds about how we felt about it because we just thought it was pretty, but there was not much to it. But now that we've seen it outside of Brave, we were able to appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to wonder if actually. I mean, I completely forgotten whether because I'm pretty sure I saw Brave in theater, so I must have seen La Luna at that same time.
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
thought.
saw La Luna in theaters as well.
Okay then. Okay, so we move on to our second best Pixar animated short, and Patricia, I'm actually quite surprised that this made it all the way up to number 2 because we only brought this up in conversation because you hadn't seen it yet, and I just needed to show it to you because it was so hilarious, and everybody seemed to have agreed. So the second best Pixar short with an average score of 8.6 out of 10 is Mr. Incredible and Pals.
Yeah, and yes, I know that very similar to George and AJ that they just added it into the DVDs, but it is hilarious. It's really funny and akin to like these old cheesy 1960s cartoons where they threw in like the cheapest animation that you can get. They threw in an animal sidekick because they needed to lighten up the mood and have the kids buy the toys. And it is just chock full of American propaganda. It is perfect. I'm so glad that I was able to finally get a chance to see it because technically speaking, it wasn't on the DVD that you got, the Pixar collection. But then we were like looking it up. It's like, hey, there's this short right over here that says Mr. Incredible and Pals. How come we're not watching that? It's like, oh, okay, let's check it out.
Yeah,
And we did, and we loved it.
Yeah, so there's two versions of it. There's actually the one without the commentary, and then there's the one that has the commentary of Samuel L. Jackson and also Leslie Tilson, who plays Mr. Incredible. And it's just watching them go back and forth, and just Samuel L. Jackson just be Samuel L. Jackson. It's absolutely hilarious. So
Yeah.
I would definitely tell people to check it out because it is full of hilarity. So.
Why wasn't this in the Pixar's collection and George and AJ is? I think they should be swapped because everybody needs to watch this.
Well, the problem is that they probably have to put two versions in it, so they have to put one with the commentary in it, one without the commentary in it, maybe. But maybe they could have just added it onto the commentary track, because I think if I recall correctly, I think there actually are commentaries on the DVD for the Pixar short collection, unless I'm mistaken.
They are, yes.
Yeah, so maybe they could have just shoved it into there, maybe, and the people who made it just be quiet just for a second, unless Samuel L. Jackson take the floor. So I don't know, but we brought it out just as as a side conversation for Jack Attack, and now it's our second best Pixar short according to all of you guys and according to ourselves. So kudos.
Yeah. That was the biggest surprise for me. I've never seen the short, and then when I finally had the chance to check it out, it was better than I thought it was. So yeah, what a great way to have it as number 2.
Yeah, imagine they did they brought back as a proper series and did the whole Clutch Cargo thing. I'll just Peter Samuel Jackson just yell how poor quality it is. I'd watch that for a couple of episodes maybe. But
yeah, that'd be great. I know that that Disney Plus is doing their series for Pixar movies. I know they're going to be doing the Monsters Inc. series, and they just announced that they're going to be doing the Doug specials. But yeah, they should definitely do more of these. I know this was a one-off gag, but at least something involving with The Incredibles to have their own series. I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. This is the number 1 top Pixar short out of the 26 that we've reviewed. So it has an average score of 8.9 out of 10. It's Presto.
Yeah, what a fantastic short, by the way. It is so hilarious. It's colorful. It's akin to classic Looney Tunes shorts. And I can see why this was number 1 because it's just so hilarious.
Yeah, you know what? After watching that, I actually got back into Looney Tunes. That's the classic ones, not like the new ones that are on now. But like I actually wanted to, like, after watching that, it kind of like, you know what, that was like, great humor back in the day. I wonder if I watched a couple of episodes of, like, so I was watching, like, a folk called Leghorn and Sylvester and the dog, having a debate about who laid the egg, and it was just like laughing out loud at it because it's just such a hilarious premise. So Presto brought me back to, like, the classic cartoon genre, and so it makes me feel so happy that I watched it.
Yeah, what a great short, and an interesting one to be paired up with. Was it what was it paired up with? No, it wasn't. Yeah, I think it was Wally. It was paired up with,
Yeah.
and what a interesting contrast. You have something light and fun, and then you go into like a more quiet, atmospheric movie like Wally. So interesting contrast.
Yeah, so I think I've always said it's always been a good way to kind of like pair, movies up with, like, shorts and things like that. Like, have something that is obviously unique on its own, and like to obviously get you ready for the movie, and then after that, basically bring you into, like, the big movie. Get you prepared for it. So I think it's a very good way of doing it. So I think I would say the same thing with Partly Cloudy. That I think that complemented up pretty well. At least in my
Yes.
opinion. So yeah. But so that was the top Pixar animated short that you all voted for. So thank you very much for everyone for contributing. So we'll give out a couple of special mentions. So the other ones that were, like, in the top 10, if you will, are Luxo Jr.
A very good short, and would carry on to have a few Sesame Street shorts as well.
Lifted.
That was a hilarious one where you essentially have the equivalent of getting your driver's license, but instead you're piloting a mothership, and all the stuff that Stu has to put up with. So that was pretty funny.
Okay, and Knick Knack.
Yeah, Knick Knack, probably the best of the pre-Toy Story classic shorts, in my opinion. I mean, Tin Toy was good too, and it was very important, but Knick Knack was, in terms of animation and in terms of its storytelling, it definitely was the best, technical wise at the time. As for it, like, being a personal favorite, I still am debating between this and Tin Toy, so I'll definitely have to get back to you on that.
And finally, Your Friend the Rat.
Yeah, and that was another great short, another great compilation alongside with Ratatouille. Even though that you have to watch the DVD extras in order for you to watch it, but still, it brings up history about the importance of rats.
Well, actually, you can actually get it on the collections DVD too. So
that too. So yeah, if you do have both of those, or even Disney Plus, you can check those out. But yeah, it gives off an interesting history about the importance of rats, and clears up the correction of rats were not the ones who caused the bubonic plague. It was fleas on the rats. And talking about how rats were able to help humanity with finding medicines and cures of diseases, and and showcasing the appreciation of what rats can do when humans just don't care for them. So yeah, a good job for Remy and Emile doing their classic presentation.
Yeah, well, thanks for not saying that they should be equal to humans, or else we have to do that massive disclaimer that they have at the end of the short. So
right.
Yeah, anyway, but that will do it, I think, for the PixMinis series. So we will be doing Pixar shorts somewhere in the near future, and also we will be talking about Luca, also potentially next year, I believe. We'll
Yes.
definitely be doing that. So until then, thanks everybody for checking out PixMix. Take care, and bye-bye for now.
See you later, everyone.